Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review at longboxreview.wordpress.com. Welcome to the show. Today I'm going to be talking about some comics that I've recently read that are new number ones, or so to speak, number ones. I'll explain that in a minute. And also talk about some comics that have either ended a storyline, story arc, or have simply ended. But first I wanted to welcome any new listeners that I may have picked up since the Emerald City Comic Con. I did a tiny bit of promotion at the show, and by that I mean I had a couple of t-shirts printed with my logo on it, and I wore those a couple of days. I know it's shameless, but I'm just trying to get more ears to the podcast and more eyes to the blog. And I also had some business cards and postcards printed up and left those at the freebie table. So I'm hoping that some of you out there listening right now have come to the show from Emerald City Comic Con. So if you have, welcome. If you haven't, you found Longbox Review somehow else, then welcome too. Welcome any and all new listeners and current listeners. I thank you very much for spending time with me. Okay, so let's get to it then. So for this Alpha and Omega episode, as I'm calling it, I'll start off with an Alpha, Age of Ultron, Book 1 by Brian Michael Bendis, Brian Hitch, penciler, Paul Neary's the inker, Paul Mounts, colorist, VC's Corey Petit, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, letterer. There you go. Let's see. So this is Marvel's new event thing. And just starting from the cover, let's just start there because I saw that, I pulled out of my box and went to read it, and I thought, what the heck is this, the 90s again? With a gold foil cover. I mean, it looks nice, but come on. Although to be fair, DC has brought back the die cut covers, so I guess everything old is new again. Let's see. In terms of Age of Ultron, however, maybe it's because of the recent Rotworld storyline in DC. I think I've kind of had my fill where the villains take over and everything is, at dire straits with the heroes, and the world is transformed and everything is really bad and dark. And that's pretty much what we have here with Age of Ultron. And besides this dystopian future, although it does say in the comic today, which that's a whole nother issue, I'll get to that in a second, but things, the stakes must be high, things are really bad because much of the issue is Hawkeye, we're shown Hawkeye trying to recover Spider-Man from the clutches of Hammerhead and the Owl, all while trying to keep everything on the down low because Ultron is looking for the heroes, I guess. What was I saying? The stakes are high because Hawkeye is killing people left and right with his arrows. He shoots a couple guys in the neck and the head and the eye, and shoots a woman in the arm who's about to shoot him. It must be bad. I mentioned Spider-Man, and so I see that in conjunction with the today bit at the beginning of it. This is New York City today, and we get a Spider-Man that's been apparently beaten. He's tied up, and he's half out of it because he's just so exhausted. And but the way that Bendis writes him, it seems like it's Peter Parker, not Doc Ock in Spider-Man's body. So that's kind of confusing. And then at the very end, when Hawkeye takes Spider-Man to the underground location where some of the other heroes are, you see Ben Grimm's head and Sue Storm sitting nearby. And so how does that work out when those guys are supposed to be off in, some other dimension or off in space or whatever it is they are in Fantastic Four? So I'm not so sure what's going on here, but it's a ride. I've decided to join it, so we'll see how it ends up. Unlike my co-host Travis, I actually kind of like event books, although they usually disappoint in the end. But like I said, it's a ride. It's a fun little story, a distraction from what's going on in the main books that I read. So I don't mind it. And I love Ultron. Ultron's been one of my favorite villains in the Marvel Universe for many, many years. And I like Bendis's work in general. I've long talked about how much I enjoy Bendis's writing. But this Age of Ultron book 1, kind of off to a rough start, just a bit anyway. So we'll see how that unfolds. I think we're getting these like every 2 weeks, and it's I don't remember now. It's 8 or 10 issues. I can't remember, but so it'll be a quick event. And then next issue we get Moon Knight, so that'll be fun. I think. I hope. We'll see. Moving on. This is kind of alphabetical order. Ame-Comi Girls #1. So I mentioned how it was a new #1 or sort of a new series, and this is what I was referring to, because even though this is Ame-Comi Girls #1, we've already had an Ame-Comi Girls #1, but the last 5 issues of that series has been Ame-Comi Girls featuring a specific character. So we started off with Wonder Woman. We had Batgirl, we had Power Girl and Supergirl and somebody else that I can't recall at the moment. There were 5 and I've only listed 4. So now we get the Ame-Comi Girls, all of these characters in one comic, and I guess this is now the ongoing series featuring these characters. I'm sorry, this is written by Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray. This is with art by Eduardo Francisco, colors by David Lopez and Santi Casas of Ikari Studio, letters by Wes Abbott. It's interesting because it's a #1, yet it's continuing the storyline from the first 5 issues of the featuring Ame-Comi Girls title. So that's a weird kind of way to get into this, I guess, for new readers, I would think. But I'm enjoying it. I like all the characters so far that we've been introduced to. So I'll be interested to see where this goes, this particular storyline goes, where they're fighting Brainiac. But then I'm especially interested to see what they're going to do with the title after that. And maybe I tend not to try not to read up on a series like this to find out what's going on in the near future or even the long term, because I like to be surprised about what's going on in the comics. I don't like to be spoiled. But it's a bit of fun. All right, next alpha I have here is Helheim from Oni Press. This is by Cullen Bunn writing. Joelle Jones is the illustrator, colored by Nick Filardi, and lettered by Ed Brisson. Brisson? Okay, so this is a Norse story. I guess for those people, those Northlanders fans out there, you get your Norse kick in. But this is set in 580 AD in the North, it says, and you get the characters, the main characters here, especially Rickard or Rickard. I say Rickard. He is one of the warriors, and he's part of a band of fighters who are running away from the enemy, going back to their encampment, their stronghold. But things aren't as they seem, because once they end up killing their attackers, they come back to life. So there's a bit of magic in this world, and things are not that good for them. We're also introduced to Rickard's love interest, Bera, who, it turns out, has a bit of her own magical touch, I'll say. Something happens to Rickard, and she then intervenes with that, and that brings us to the premise of the story. So I was really looking forward to this. I like Cullen Bunn's writing in general. He does the Six Gun series for Oni Press as well. And so I thought, okay, I'll try this out. It's by him. I like the art by Joelle Jones, but I'm curious, considering, and if you haven't read it, You may want to pause or go read it and then come back and listen to this part. I don't know how much of a spoiler it really is, though, but I don't like it when people spoil things for me when I'm listening to podcasts. So anyway, near the end, Ricard actually gets killed, but Bera brings him back to life. So he's this, and he's now this hulking looking creature that's been cobbled together from, I believe the implication is from the dead that the Vikings have, whom the Vikings have killed in the battle before. And he's kind of under her thrall. So what I'm wondering now is how this will go, because is it Bera's story? Is it Ricard's story? How is that going to end up? Where is it going to go from there with him being in her thrall? So I imagine things will change over time, of course. Cullen Bunn is a particularly savvy writer, I've discovered, so I kind of have faith in this, but just this first issue setup, I'm wondering where can it really go. But I'll be pleasantly surprised, I'm sure, to find out. And finally, in the alpha category, Sex by Joe Casey. Peter Kowalski is the artist, Brad Simpson is the colorist, Russ Wooten is the letterer, and Sonia Harris is the graphic designer. To which I have to ask, what does that mean? I've seen this graphic designer moniker on other Image books, and perhaps even in regards to Sonia Harris in particular, but I'm trying to figure out what a graphic designer does on a comic book. Isn't the artist that, in a sense? It's just an interesting side note. And okay, so sex. I think everybody realizes that Joe Casey is using that word as the title to draw people in, and of course he's right, it does. But what really drew me into this, to trying this out, is the premise of a retired superhero returning to his city, and then following what ensues. Can he actually stay retired? What does his past actions as a superhero, or how does that affect him? I'm sure enemies that know about him and know about his identity will come back. And in fact, we get that in the end, somebody from his past. I don't know if it's necessarily an enemy, but she shows up at the end, so we'll see how that goes. It's an interesting first issue. I was mostly interested in the backstory as to why the character of Simon Cook decides to hang up his, tights, so to speak, and return to Saturn City as the location. And then there actually is sex. It's in the book. He's not directly involved in it, but there is an explicit scene in here involving a couple of ladies, which I'm sure will entice many fanboys out there. So there's that, and it doesn't help. Okay, let me back up for a second. So what I like about the premise of the book, I'm concerned about the promotion and hype surrounding the book may drown out what is potentially a good idea in here. And it doesn't help that the solicitations for the upcoming comics, tie into the whole sex idea. For example, Sex number 3, the solicitation for that, says, the old man can still get it up. No two ways about it. This is the perfect time to pay for sex. It's even better than you think. Language like that just kind of turns me off. I think that detracts from what could be a potentially good storyline. And Joe Casey himself, if you read his bit in the back of the book, he's definitely a polarizing and bombastic individual. So, yeah, I don't know how long I'll be with this title, but and then just one more comment on this. Many times throughout the comic, in fact, it's peppered throughout, where I would normally see bold text for emphasis, they're doing this weird kind of highlighting with different colors, and there doesn't seem to be I'm trying to figure out if there's any rhyme or reason here, because you've got a blue, an orange, a green, a gray, yellow, and not every time that this highlighting shows up do I think that that word or those words should be emphasized. So I'm trying to figure out what that is all about, and if it's just some sort of weird, hey, I think it'd be kind of cool to highlight these words that need to be emphasized in the dialogue. No, it's just distracting. So it's like using different fonts for dialogue in a book or something. It just doesn't really work as much as the writer may like it to. So, well, we'll see how sex goes. All right. Moving on, here's the Omega part of the episode. These are books that, like I said, have either ended or the storylines have ended. I thought I would mention them. First up is Before Watchmen. This is the Rorschach limited series. Number 4 just came out. Let's see here. This is by Brian Azzarello and writing, and Lee Bermejo doing the art. And I have to say, I haven't talked. I don't think I've talked at all really about any of these Before Watchmen series. I should do that in the future, but just thought I'd mention this one since it is just one I just happened to have read just now. And the art of the story has been really good. I haven't actually really enjoyed the story overall. I don't think it's added anything to his story other than what we already know about him. The only really interesting thing about this ending issue is this guy this crook that Rorschach runs up against ends up getting the upper hand on Rorschach, and he ends up the crook ends up taking Rorschach's mask, puts it on, and goes out into the streets. There's a riot going on, and he stops these looters, and then basically tells them to take him on, and the reason he does this is that he says he knows. He says I get this, the mask thing, I get it. It's what separates you from I won't repeat that, the bad people in the world. He goes on, says some more things, but with a mask I look like everybody underneath it. That's cool. But he ends up failing to do what Rorschach does, which is basically survive the fight. So it's not just the mask, obviously, is what I guess where Azzarello is going after, but it's, who fills the mask. It was okay. I could have not read this, and I knew going in after I read the first issue that this probably would not be my favorite of the Before Watchmen series. All right, here we go. Next one. This is Willow, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Willow Wonderland series. This is by Christos Gage and Jeff Parker doing the script, Brian Ching doing pencils. Let's see this. Jason Gorder on inks, and Michelle Madsen on colors. Letters by Richard Starkings. And Comic Crafts, Jimmy Betancourt. What do I say about this? I love Willow in general from the TV series. I haven't really cared for the character in the comic book series, either season 8 or 9, and in this limited series. The story basically is that Willow goes off into another dimension in search of magic because she believes that without the magical heart on Earth, the seed, that basically the Earth is slowly dying. There's no creativity. And so she goes off in search of that. And, it ends up being more about a search about what she is about and how she feels about things, which is fine. It's a fine enough story. I don't know that I needed 5 parts to this, and it could have been just a one-shot as far as I'm concerned. But beautiful covers, though. If there were 5 issues, I got 4 David Mack covers, and then one other cover that I really liked better, but the David Mack stuff, beautiful, like I said, beautiful covers, but you can skip that series if in trade if you haven't read it and you were on the fence about reading it, unless you're a completist. Okay, a couple more things. First up, though, is the Hell on Earth conclusion, and this is in Superman number 17. Yeah, this continues the disappointing endings to a storyline. Of course, we knew that somehow Superman and his Superman family would end up defeating Hell, and of course that's what happens here. Although it does, set up some things possible for a possible return down the road, and hints at some really bad things coming, and that that's all fine. I don't mind that kind of foreshadowing, but there was this oracle creature, like this cosmic creature that is like, I don't know, he looks like he's made out of stone, so to speak, but he's got a head and he's got these arms that kind of float near his shoulders, type of thing. But anyway, we're told that if Oracle shows up, bad things are going to happen, and then nothing bad really did. I mean, other than the promise that Hell could return, and that could be a bad thing, but it has more to do with Superman. At the end, we find out that he's observing Superman, and he knows what Superman's actions here today will exact an unspeakable toll on everything that Kal-El holds dear, and perhaps one day even the Omniverse itself. Dun dun dun. So, yeah. It was okay. It was an okay story. It was definitely not the Superman caliber type story that I kind of expected it would be. And I followed the story not only through the Superman title, but also Supergirl and Superboy. And I just did not care for it. I think Kara, Supergirl, again comes off really bad, really poorly in this story. Just for the sake of moving the plot forward, that's too bad. She seems to get the short shrift in various stories. When she was the dark Supergirl from before, when Darkseid was involved, and I just don't care for that kind of stuff. Why can't, if it has to happen, why can't it happen to somebody else? It seems like she gets that all the time. But anyway, that's the end of that one. And then I'll just briefly mention these last two in conjunction, and because Travis and I talked on a previous episode recently about our hesitation, our potential misgivings about the end of the Rotworld story, and we get in Swamp Thing 18 and Animal Man 18, we kind of get what I'm calling the epilogue of the story. And I won't go into detail because I'd like to talk with Travis about it, considering what we said about the Rotworld story before. And again, if you haven't read Animal Man 18 and you don't want to be spoiled yet, just kind of fast forward like 30 seconds or so. But the tragic ending here is that Buddy Baker loses his son, ends up dying helping his dad, which is, that's too bad because I always liked that character. I'm gonna say this event is the only real repercussion of this storyline. Now, I say that, but also there is a repercussion in Swamp Thing number 18, and that is while Alec and Abigail are reunited, it's for a very brief time because Abigail becomes the new avatar of the Rot, instead of her uncle Anton Arcane. But they do have this brief moment where they're together, even though they can't be, at least not for very long. And so it was a nice, poignant way to end the story on that end of the Rotworld equation. So you kind of have a glimmer, a bit of hope, even though the reunion is bittersweet as opposed to what happened in Animal Man. So there you go. That's the alpha and omega of some recent titles that I've read. I want to add on to here at the end of the episode that I watched the finales of both Green Lantern, the animated series, and Young Justice. And I just want to say, grrr, because such good shows, and it really stinks that Cartoon Network and Warner Brothers and anybody else involved in this decision are canceling those shows. I watch them. It's not just me that likes them in my house. My 7 and 8-year-old granddaughters watch them with me, especially my 7-year-old, whom you will hear in just a bit. It was just fun to watch. Green Lantern. I kind of had to warm up to that a little bit because I don't particularly care for that computer, the CGI animation that they did with that. But I grew to like it. I really enjoyed the storyline between Razor and Aya. I like the whole spectrum of lanterns that they introduced throughout the series, and it's a pity that they weren't able to do more with that. And speaking of bittersweet, with how Green Lantern ends, with Razor going off to look for Aya, and then that very last shot, as he disappears into the background of the shot, a blue lantern ring shows up and then goes off after him. I thought that was really, really well done. A nice ending to that story and to those characters. And then as far as Young Justice, what can I say? I was in love with that show from the very beginning. I've talked a few times on the podcast about how I really like the whole younger hero / sidekick stories and characters. Teen Titans, the Legion of Superheroes have long been my favorites in all of comics. So any story that features these younger heroes trying to live up to the older heroes' expectations and just what they go through, I just really dig that quite a bit. So this show was made for me basically, and the animation of it, I really like the animation of that. But again, you get this bittersweet ending. No, not really bittersweet. It's really bitter. So if you haven't watched it, fast forward a little bit, because the very end they end up defeating the situation that the bad guys set up to destroy the Earth, but at a cost, obviously. And this whole time, this whole Young Justice invasion season it started out with Wally West, Kid Flash, and Artemis being together, and then she goes off to join a covert ops team that lasts the whole season. Every once in a while, they show Wally grousing to Dick Grayson about how Artemis is out there and she's in danger. And as soon as this thing is over and everybody's fine, then they're gonna retire. They're not coming back to this life. But then you get to the very last episode, and Wally helps save the day. He helps the Flash and Impulse take care of the situation. Unfortunately, because his speed is doesn't quite match Barry's and Bart's speed, Wally becomes a casualty, or apparently so, and he basically keeps getting zapped by these energy spikes and disappears, leaving Artemis now alone. And it was just really sad. And may I just add, it really bugged me that, again, Wally West gets tossed out of the DC universe, whether it's in the comics, the New 52, or in the Young Justice universe. It just really ticked me off that they did that. I mean, it was nice for a tear-jerking moment, but just again, I say grr. Okay, I think that's it. That's enough for the Alpha and Omega episode. Next up, I interviewed my granddaughter Madison. As I said, she's age 7, and she loves watching this stuff with me. So you get to hear us talking about Green Lantern and Young Justice. So stick around for that. Before that, however, please, if you want to leave some feedback, you can email me at longboxreview@gmail.com. You can leave voicemail at 208-953-1841. And, if you're a fan of the show, I'd appreciate it if you left a review at iTunes. Either just rate the show and leave some comments. That would be really nice. That would be very helpful. And I think that's it. So go read some comics, and thanks for listening. I am here with my granddaughter, Madison, who is age 7, and she and I like to watch Green Lantern and Young Justice together. So, Madison, tell me, what is your favorite thing about Green Lantern?
That they are powerful and they save the world.
And who's your favorite character on Green Lantern?
The Green Lanterns and the red one.
Razor?
Yes, the 3.
And what about Aya?
Yeah.
Do you like how do I want to say this, relationship between Aya and Razor?
Yes.
What about right now where Aya is kind of mad at Razor and everybody?
No.
Why not?
Because she's destroying the world.
She is. She's trying to, isn't she? Okay. Let's see. Let's talk about Young Justice. What do you like about Young Justice?
They save the world too.
So you're okay with everybody saving the world?
Yes.
Who's your favorite character on Young Justice?
Kid Flash.
Really? The one that always says crash?
Yeah.
Or the one in the yellow suit?
Yellow one.
So that's Wally West. You like him more than well, you know what? Never mind. I'm thinking of Impulse as Kid Flash. So which one do you like? The one that says crash all the time, or the yellow one?
Both.
And why both?
Because they speed and catch up to each other, and they like take people's clothes off when they speed around.
Wait. What do you mean they take people's clothes off?
I saw this commercial of one of them taking two people's clothes off.
Okay, I don't remember that, but Madison has a really good memory, so I'm sure that she saw that. Okay, so that's Green Lantern Young Justice. Madison already knows that. See, we haven't watched the finales of both shows yet, but she knows that means that there will be no more episodes. And how does that make you feel, Madison?
Sad.
Why?
Because it's one of my favorite shows, and I won't really see any of them anymore.
And for me, Madison, it's I'm gonna be really sad because it's something that you and I both enjoy to do together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go watch the finale episodes, and then we'll talk again, okay?
Yes.
Okay, so we just watched the finales to Green Lantern and Young Justice. So, Madison, what do you think?
Good, but I'm sad they are ending forever.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. Let's talk about Green Lantern first. So, with what happened to Aya, how'd that make you feel?
Sad.
Is that all?
Because she killed the one she loved.
Razor.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
She killed him.
But she was able to make him better. But then she died herself, didn't she?
Yeah.
That was pretty sad. Okay, so let's talk about Young Justice. So they saved the day, they saved the world, but then what happened at the end?
Yellow died.
Kid Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. So what was it? What did you say when I turned it off? You said, "Is that it?" And I said, "Yeah." And then what did you say?
I wish there was more. I'm sad that it's all ending.
Yeah, me too. But we do have, you saw the Teen Titans Go commercial. What do you think of that?
So funny.
It's funny. Yeah. Do you want to watch that?
Yeah.
And then later, I think, after Teen Titans Go, they're going to have another Batman cartoon. Do you want to watch that?
Yes.
All right. Anything else you want to say about Green Lantern or Young Justice?
I just wish there was more.
Yeah, so do a lot of other people. Okay. Thank you, Madison, for talking with me.
Welcome. Bye.
All right, that's it. Bye-bye.